Hello and welcome to another episode of 33 Strangers. I'm your host, Michael Abney, and this is a podcast for founders and mission-driven creatives around the world that are building something meaningful inside of it as everything else is collapsing around it and we're all trying to stay sane in the middle of it and just use what we know to help humanity through this space. And today I'm really honored to have somebody from Mount Shasta, California, a very special place that I got to visit about 10 years ago. And Alex, welcome to the show. My guest today is Alex Crenshaw, and you have the Zen Institute out in Mount Shasta, and we're here today to hear your story and talk about what you're creating out there. I'm really excited to get to hear the story.
Thank
Welcome.
you, Michael. It's a great pleasure to be here in Mount Shasta. It's a great honor. Thank you for the opportunity and for your time.
You are absolutely welcome. I just kind of want to dive right in there. Like, how did this start to occur for you? Like, how did you end up in Mount Shasta and the Zen Institute? Like, where did this all begin for you, your own awakening?
Well, it began officially when I was 28.
28.
I was working in corporate accounting. And then before that, I began to meditate, to read Zen books. I was in Mexico in a small town. And then I had the opportunity on May of 1999 to go to a Zen retreat in Mexico City. And then I met my Zen teacher there. And I felt the deep connection with him. And that's the important that meeting the right person at the right time. And that was on 1999. And after that moment, a few months later, quit my job and I moved to Rochester in New York a few months later. And that's what was my Saturn return. And 1999, according to the Mayan calendar, it was a big year for changes in humanity. And I confirmed that. So in a few months, I was in Rochester in my semi-monastic training. I was there for 7 years. And it was one of the best decisions in my life. I met people from all over the world, from Sweden, from England, from Scotland, from Austria, from Germany, from Finland. And it really expanded my mind to see that we all are one. Zen has nothing to do with religion, because I met pilots, I met priests, I met a nun, and it was a great experience, learning, knowing from other countries why people came to the Zen Center. They were looking for an answer, the answer to the basic questions of life. What are we doing here? What happens when we die? What is the purpose of being human? Why, as you mentioned at the beginning, why do we have so many problems? What is that coming?
Yeah. And how do we, like, what do we do in the inside of it? You know, it's like, I believe we're all waking up to, or many more people are waking up to it now than ever before. And I started to, like, 96 to 99 was a point where I started having major wake up moments myself, and started down my spiritual path. But like, you were in corporate before that, right? So did you have anything in your past that caused you to resonate with the process of the Zen Institute and your process of just getting, you said you're Zen master. So I want to explore really what that is for you just a little bit more. I want clarity, and I know people listening would want clarity too, because there's words that we think we know what the meanings of them are, but we really don't. They're just like oh yeah, but we have it framed incorrectly, if you ask me. So like, what's your take on it, since you're in the middle of it and this was like the spark that attracted your awakening? What was it about it, and how can we frame that for our listeners today?
Well, it was the process. For example, when I was at the Zen Center, I was planning to stay there my whole life. I love monastic training. I love studying, practicing, because Zen is not practice. It's not theory. You need to practice and to go beyond the intellect. Zen is known as the doctrine beyond the words. That's the mystical aspects. So the intellect is okay. It has its place. And I love that. But after 7 years, during my last 2 years, something began to change internally. And it was my time to leave, and I went back to corporate. I was in Charlotte, in North Carolina for 6 years. So I left the Zen Center in 2006. I found a job again in corporate accounting in a petrochemical company in Charlotte. I did my MBA at Wake Forest, but at the same time I began to volunteer with children, because that's an important aspect also. There are two parts of this journey. Normally we believe that the solutions to the problems in the world are in a monastery, going to monastery. Monastic life has its place. But to really solve the problems in society, we need to be here. For example, as I was telling you before the interview, at some point I live in Sacramento, and I was volunteered at the Sacramento Children's Home for 2 years. I was there every weekend for 2 hours with the children. At the same time, I began teaching Zen Buddhism at the Folsom State Prison. For people to know, the Folsom State Prison is the oldest prison in the U.S. It's one of the most difficult ones. Because in my opinion, Michael, if you want to understand the problems of a society, go to an orphanage and go to a prison. And you see what is going on. Because all this consciousness, that's the important part. Everything is consciousness. The human body, what we have based on the quantum field, 99% is energy, 1% is matter, is this flesh. In my opinion, people do not know how to use the mind. And that's when the Zen training comes, because I noticed that at the prison, even within the most difficult environment, I saw the transformation of the inmates doing this science of freedom. That was my first book, Zen, that I bought, that I read. Zen is the science of freedom. This is a science. And it's a process of the mind, understanding how the mind works, aware through nature, and how we can be in society. Because what I like from the Zen tradition, the highest adepts were in the middle of society. Zen masters were advisors of prime ministers, senators, politicians, because they knew we evolved in society.
Well, how did you get from Charlotte to, was it direct from Charlotte to Mount Shasta or California?
No, that was a good question. It was a process. For example, when I finished my MBA, it was a time for a change. And I said, I cannot continue this job because I see what is going on in the world. And I wanted to be more involved, doing more service. So after my MBA, I quit my job. Again, another cycle in my life, taking risks. Part of this journey, Michael, you need to take risk. You need to follow your heart. And listen to that inner voice. It's so important. And that's when the science of meditation is so useful. You need to go quiet. And it came because I have a very stable job that I could do that for my whole life. Very comfortable, but I said, no, I need to follow my passion in life. I need to listen to my true calling. Quit my job. People told me, what are you doing? The U.S. was still recovering from the financial crisis of 2008. People told me, my co-workers, think about this. What are you doing? I don't care, I need to do this. Quit my job after I finished my MBA in 2012. I crossed the U.S. driving. The U.S. is a beautiful country, I can tell you that. It's so beautiful here in the U.S. So I went from New York to California, and I was at the San Francisco Zen Center. I was there for 6 months, training there. And because I am an accountant, I was doing budget. I was working at the financial office there. And I met, again, great people. Because I came to California to explore the subconscious mind, which I found in my training, in seeing other people, the subconscious is not explored. We need to understand how the subconscious mind works, because 95% of what we are doing is controlled by the subconscious mind. Meditation is okay, but I found that in my own journey, in my own process, that something was missing. Even when you meditate for hours, you still have these challenges. Where is that coming from? And I see that, and that's one of the problems that you find in spiritual circles, what is called the spiritual bypass.
Yeah.
I am great, I am very spiritual, but you see, what they do with their families in their personal life. I mean, are you enlightened doing what you do? That's very common. And that's because people do not work on the subconscious and working on the shadow. That's what I do a lot. We need to work on the shadow.
So, perfect segue. So the shadows is what led you to the shadows of our society, like the things that we don't like to look at, right? Like the orphanages and the prisons, that sort of. So I really want to, you have a very, very, very valuable perspective that a lot of us don't have access to, or the willingness to even go there, even if it did occur to us. So what did you find whenever you, how did that solidify what you like? Because for me, I'll just start like it's when I'm starting something, I have an idea or a sense about it, but then when I explore it and when I'm allowing myself to gather evidence and just see what I'm experiencing, it often shifts. Like the thing I thought it was when I was going in shifts. How did that shift for you? All of what you were learning about Zen and how to master the subconscious and explore that world. How did that impact you, or what did you see when you started working with the prisons? What were they saying to you?
Well, there are two aspects. First, with the children. For example, I have 2 children now that I mentor, right? And in Zen, we have what is called our true nature. Who we are, in essence, goes beyond your age, your male, female. There's something that is indestructible, that goes beyond time and space, that is always there. That's our true essence. That's what is called our true nature. In spite of that, but we are human, we have, that is called the absolute. The relative part is you, Michael, I am Alex, male, female, and the point is how to combine this duality that we are here, why we are here. One of the lessons with children is the resilience of the children, no matter, because I work with children that have been really abused. But for me, they are one of my best teachers because you see the innocence that is always there no matter what. And in my case, as a CASA volunteer, or when I was at the orphanage, is to always keep that in the forefront. And that when you go to adulthood, always remember that never lose that innocence that is always there, even in the darkest moments. And then seeing that at the prison, because according to statistics, around 50% of the children in the foster care go to prison. Why? Yes, it's true. And because when I was at the prison, some of the inmates wrote letters, what happened to them. And you see the cycle, Michael. We need to break the cycle. Because people do not know how to use the mind. That's the key. And I witnessed the transformation of the man within the most difficult situations. So that's the point. We have so much power. And this is the point that I want to make. In the Zen tradition, there's a lot of leadership and ethics, integrity. Because the problem is humans get corrupted. And that's the key, one of the key contributions of the Zen tradition. That is the reason in history they always work with people in power, because they know once you get into power, it's very easy to get corrupted. And that's when most of the problems begin. I was in Dubai 2 years ago, and when I was in Dubai, I realized we should not have poverty on the planet. There's so much money around the planet. Because people do not know how to use the mind, and people are easily controlled. I'm
still reeling about that connection that you just made with orphanages and prisons. And what I'm real prisons is our mind.
Yes, we all live
and
in
so
a prison.
I've never connected that. Wow.
This is a great example that I want to share. I share the life of Helen Keller because of that reason. I gave a talk on Tuesday in Ashland, because as you mentioned, people do not make the connection. Helen Keller was a mobile monastery. She couldn't see, she couldn't hear, but she wrote 14 books, Nobel Prize, I mean, she was nominated for the Nobel Prize. She met most of the U.S. presidents when she was alive, because people said, where is this coming from, all these achievements, this woman that is deaf and blind? Because when I ask people in the presentation, cover your ears and close your eyes for 1 minute, and let's see what kind of life you have. And just to give you an example, when the quarantine began in 2020, I read an article in the San Francisco Chronicle. The doctors were asking the authorities to stop the quarantine because the suicide rate tripled at the beginning of COVID-19. People couldn't take being alone in home. Because, and that's an example, people do not know how to use the minds, and they couldn't take it. Divorces went up during COVID-19. I mean, why? Problems in families. People decided to leave the planet. And you explained to me how this woman that was deaf and blind did what she did. She changed the world. Because it's all in the mind. And that's the key that we do not know because we don't have the tools to use the mind and to awaken our potential. And that's the mission of the Zen Institute. We need to do that. And that's what I do, working with children, learning. Because the basis of a society is the family. This noble institution, we need to maintain the family values. It's so important.
And to talk about what you're talking about and making those, you can't unding a bell. You cannot unding a bell. And so that's why I love having conversations, is because it opens up how I perceive things, and it helps me connect deeper to myself when we're having this level of conversation, not a surface conversation, which is the whole intention of my podcast in the beginning, is to get under the surface and talk about what's really happening. So when you're in these experiences and you see this, like your drive and passion, it almost precedes the words. But I want to kind of catch up here a little bit. So like I want to ask you, what's the first thing that somebody can do that's listening to this, that they've heard of Zen, but they're hearing it now in a completely different way? And what's the first step that somebody can take to start to open the door to this level of awareness?
Well, first, as I mentioned, listen to that inner voice. Do not get distracted by using the media or I am not ready. For example, I was talking in the talk on Tuesday. You know what stops people for doing what they want to do in life? I am too old. You see all these comparisons on Facebook, TikTok, so I am not ready. Stop listening to that negative inner critic. Follow that inner voice. Go into silence. That silence is what's called the silence of God. Listen to that inner voice. Follow your passion in life. We are unique. You cannot compare yourselves to anybody. Our DNA is perfect. And now we have this great the science of epigenetics. Now they are confirming what all these great mystics said. It's a waste of time when you compare yourselves to other person. Follow your passion in life. We are unique. We all have a unique mission in this lifetime, and that's our goal, to reconnect with that mission, listen to that voice, and take action.
So how is this different from meditation? Or how does, obviously you have to take what you just said and put it into reality, like a practice. You have to I'd have to set aside time. And, I do that for my own meditation, how I'm doing it that particular day. Sometimes it's twice a day, but just able to presence myself before I do anything. And actually that's just taking a moment to be really clear about what I am intending that I want my experience to be or my interaction to be in that moment. Like taking those little resets during the day. Do you have a practice, or is there something that you offer people that you're working with to begin to that journey of connecting deeper with themselves?
Yes, is the meditation practice. Because you need to become the witness. It's like, for example, in the chemical industry, in big industries, to solve a problem, you need to first understand the problem. How can you solve the problem if you have no idea that it's there? You need to go into meditation to listen to that inner voice, to say, okay, what is going on in my life? Meditation is a tool that is going to help you to start to become the witness. Okay, what is going on? Let's say you are going through a difficult situation at home, divorce with the children. What is going on? Meditation is going to help you to create the space so you can start to separate from the situation. And then I offer the tools with the subconscious mind how to deal with that situation. For example, how the mind works. We only use the potential of the mind most of the time is very little. So we need to increase our potential of the mind through meditation first, to understanding how the subconscious works. One of the trainings that I offer is called Mind Mastery, the science of self-empowerment. You need to understand the map of the mind, how the mind works, the subconscious, the conscious, and the relationship with the human body. Because the human body is a reflection of the subconscious mind. So those tools I offer my clients and companies to start to address this issue. But at the same time, Michael, we cover a lot integrity, what is called a genuine human being. Another word for Zen is a genuine human being. How do we define a genuine human being? Because once you start to awaken that power that is there, it's very seductive. I like to read the Wall Street Journal almost on a daily basis. And you see all these great CEOs, very capable, very smart people that manage billions of dollars and they change, societies based on their decisions. They went and they make one mistake and the whole career goes down. Mm-hmm. A great example, when I was training at the San Francisco Zen Center, one of the priests, she was an ex-vice president in Silicon Valley. And I asked her, can we take all these principles to Zen, to Silicon Valley? And she told me, it's very difficult. It's very competitive there. It's going to be very difficult to take these principles to Silicon Valley. That tells you a lot.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yes. And yes.
See, you mentioned at the beginning about the problems. That's really the first thing I think a human being realizes, like there's coping, we're all taught to just cope with the problems, but you and I both know the problems are really coming, they're coming out in that form to grab our attention. So we dive deeper is my take on it. Interesting to understand how you see, everybody's got their set of problems, and like used to, when I was first starting to wake up, that would really short circuit me. It would really take me out. It would take me days to recover from something that came out of nowhere. Because whenever you start to wake up, things fly at you a lot faster. Or it's about my experience. And so like this week, I had several things that happened that were, it was, my dad's birthday this week. He passed away. So there was like all of the grief that kind of comes back with all of that stuff. And external things that I'm working on at the beginning of next year and like problems. But they didn't occur like a problem. It occurred like, okay, I can now, I don't have to fix it. I don't have that sense of urgency like I used to because of the practice that I have in my life. And then that not having that urgency allowed me to just be with, all of this stuff is supposed to be here right now. And as soon as I was able to grab all of it at one whack, everything started to make sense and fall in the right spots and everything got handled. But I can just picture myself like 5 years ago, I would have canceled everything during the week and just had my moment. So there's this balance of trying to keep that mastery going and understand that it's a process. So a lot of us have a tendency to think that this is a Band-Aid to something or trying to fix something, but it doesn't really work that way, does it?
No, well, because the first principle is that everything that happens in our life is not an accident. We attract what happened in our lives. And that's when the meditation comes, because I was the same as you were. Where is this coming from? And you start to blame people or situations of life. But when you start to go into silence, you realize, I attracted that. because we are so powerful, we are walking antennas. People need to realize that. As Nikola Tesla said, we are energy, frequency, and vibration. You need to master that. You need to become a master on energy, frequency, and vibration. Anything in the universe, your brain, your cells, your hair, your eyes, everything is vibration, and it's moving constantly. So that's another part to understand the quantum laws. Everything works through law. That's what is called in Buddhism the Dharma. Dharma means that which upholds the universe of the universal laws. That's what is the Dharma. So we need to align to that laws. You will realize that most of the problems that you have is because you did not align to the universal laws of the universe. Which is now there is a lot going on, but that's the basis. And it takes training to really own your process. That we create our own reality. It's very subtle. We are so powerful. There was an author called Ingo Swann. He wrote a book, Secrets of Power, and he said, because we are very powerful as human beings. And then once you own that power, it's very important that you know how to use it. Because I can tell you with children and in the prison, many of the problems that we have is because is the misuse of power.
Do you think it's from just a consciousness perspective or a consciousness issue? Or is it that they because I don't think you can use the power, like when you're conscious of it, I can't imagine ever using it for a negative way. Like it's not part of, like I can't imagine somebody understanding what the universe really is and its love and then use that for some evil intention. Like I don't get that. Maybe it does exist, but it's just like for me, maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just me. But like I can't imagine understanding the beautifulness and the connectiveness of human beings and how we're all connected and the beauty of everything that's happening, and then use that for something to control somebody else or to ill end.
Which is very common. Well, that's how we explain this is what Carl Jung introduced, collective consciousness. Okay, we are part of collective consciousness. So in my experience, meditation, if you continue doing that, it's going to give you willpower. I am not going there. For example, I was reading on the news. I read the BBC News almost on a daily basis, and what is going on in Europe. They have a big problem with addiction, and it's increasing. Why people are taking drugs? What is going on in their minds? Yes, you need to apply the law to put these people in jail, but the basic question is this: why people are using drugs? What is missing in their life? They are doing that because they do not know. First, there is something better, and they do not have the tools to cope with whatever is happening. Plus, it's a way also, like in business, right? You see, you know how much it costs 30 seconds of an ad in the Super Bowl? $17 million, 30 seconds. So why companies are willing to pay $17 million for 30 seconds? Because it works, because they know how the mind works. Even they can sell something that is not good for people, but they don't care. I am making money, giving my bonus as a CEO. I want that bonus. That's how it starts when you say, I am not going there. But what helps in my case, when you see the children and the inmates, I met a guy in prison. He told me, Alex, I was supposed to get out from here since 97. That was 2019. He was still there. Because of the system, bureaucracy, racism. But when you see that does something to you. That, okay, we're humans, because this is great technology. But the problem is that we're very, all this technology, AI, is making us very, I don't care about others. I don't care. No, we are humans. We are losing this human connection. It's very important to never lose that, because that's when the humans get corrupted. Even if you are not aware, you do that because this is what I'm supposed to do. This is my job. I work this. I am making money. I don't care about other people. That's the problem.
You're opening the door to so much right now. Okay. Wow. have you, like, have you had a connection that caught you off guard that you had with somebody when you were working with them in prison? That you have never, like, a human connection?
Well, yes, because
that caught you off guard, like.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You know, I had a case that I read on the New York Times, an article that a prison guard committed suicide, and he left a letter for the family. He had a son and the wife, and in the letter he said, "My job made me do this." He killed himself because of his job at the prison. And according to the statistics, the highest suicide rate of prison guards is in California. And some of them compare being a prison guard there like being in Iraq. Imagine the environment there. So it occurred to me, Michael, I'm going to share this article with the inmates. So we have an opportunity that you can help the prison guards. Print the article, share that with the inmates, and I had a big lesson in life because we read the article. What we did in prison, we read some article aloud, and when a guy finished reading that article, he just said, this is a lie. He deserved this. You have no idea what they do to us here in prison. The prison guard. He deserved this. And it was so painful to witness that. He said, you have no idea what they do to us, the prison guards. And it's true. So that's human nature.
Because they lost their connection to humanity.
But
and it wasn't about money.
Point. I mean, I cannot do that, but that's happened there. And that's prisons, when you see that objectively, is human nature. Very intense, right? That's when prison works helps you to see, because that is happening in society at a diluted level. But prison is a very intense level, but it's exactly the same. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. This is really transformative for me too, because like everything's a mirror. Everything's a mirror. So I have a calling to create community in a new way. And these ideas, and I have a company that wants me to do, like, all these things are colliding. So I've created this event. In fact, I'm getting the green light to release it today. And I found myself this week, who am I to try to do this out of the box sort of thing? What's the connection? Like, why would somebody want to, because bottom line, I feel we need to recreate community in a new way and start from scratch. And I know that we have to trust each other. That's the first pillar. We have to trust each other. And for the trust to be there, we have to get to know each other in a deeper way than these surface level questions. So I created an event. It's called the 314 Experiment. That's the area code where I live. And 250 people are going to come in January, and we're all going to create a context and then go out in the lobby and interview each other with these deeper questions to get to know each other as a community and share our experiences about what that was like, to create that first step of taking that to a next level. And I have been in my head about, who am I to do this? What's this 60-year-old guy getting in front of, like, I should be retired. Like, all of the things that you just talked about on this whole thing, I've experienced this week in some level. And you just really inspired me today to, like, screw that. I'm not listening to that voice. And I just want to thank you. And you also said the thing that I needed to hear about my why was because when we lose our connection to our humanity, that's when everything starts to really fall apart. And that's when I'm a stand that doesn't happen. So thank you for, like, giving me the clarity of that today, because I'm going to take that. So I really appreciate it. I had some other questions, but, like, you blew me away with, like, it went a totally different direction, but I'm grateful for that. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with today? I mean, this opens the door to a lot of questions. I think we just need to still. I can't wait to listen to this back when I edit it, because I know I'm going to hear this in another way. Normally, I don't get so deeply impacted It's not the right word I'm looking for, but it just really, you moved me today. That's what I'm saying. So your presence moved me today. I want to thank you for bringing that to 33 Conversations today. I really super appreciate it. Is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with before we go?
Follow your inner call. You have so much potential. You have no idea what we can do, especially when we serve others. And life is going to support you. I tell you that by experience. I got a lot of support coming to the mountain that even people, how do you do it? Many people want to come to Mount Shasta and they can't. It was so easy for me, but because I am aware of my mission. Follow your inner voice, that inner call. Do whatever it takes in your lifetime to do it. Follow your passion.
Well, you did that for me today too. So thank you so much. Wow. Didn't see that one because I was not on my bingo card today, but I really appreciate the universe giving that to me. And I want to thank all the listeners out there that are listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it, and I see it, and I thank you. And go out and have an amazing conversation with somebody you don't even know today and get to know them on a deeper level. Yeah. I don't have anything else to say except for I'm going to see you on the next conversation. Bye, guys.